Italy? Whiskey? Ah, Italy, you could never look at my secret. Oh, no, suddenly, hello, lady. Let's begin. Indeed.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Honey Badger Radio. My name is Brian, and this is the Fireside Chat. And today, I have the pleasure of the company of Natty, who used to appear on our show a lot, and we were at ICMI together, and went to various events and such. But in the last little while, she's been moving away from the men's movement and some of the stuff that we do. And this has resulted in a little bit of like back and forth on social media and such. So we've been trying to do this for a bit. I think at least I've been saying we should to basically like get a handle on what is going on. And first of all, I wanted to catch up a little bit. So welcome to the show, Natty. How are you?
Hi, how you doing?
I'm good.
I'm okay. I'm all right. Yeah. What's been going on? Today, just getting stuck in with the kids and doing what I normally do. Ironically, not being on social media at all today.
Really?
So, no, not really. Maybe like once.
Yeah. So, I think we're gonna need a little bit of backstory for people who don't know, like what like. I guess where you are in your life and what's changed, because when we're doing this content and we're all kind of like in our respective little circles, time doesn't move the same for everybody. And I think that what's probably most useful is for us to have like a grounding point from which we can launch. So what has happened with you, like what in terms of like how you moved away from whatever positions or whatever's changed, and we just want to get an understanding of like what and why, I guess.
Okay,
so
my husband's here now, so I invited him to join me. So he's off screen, but he's here. Say hey.
Hi.
He might come on screen. It's not. I don't know
He doesn't.
yet.
If he doesn't, it's okay. I don't
Cool.
have. I'm alone here too, so
Yeah.
I mean, Lindsay's in the other room with the dog.
We just thought it would be interesting for him to be here and to speak, and just to kind of like, because in the past, when I've done stuff online, it's it's just been me, Natty. My husband's never been involved in any of this, but he's been around the whole time. So
Yeah.
he clearly has a perspective on things, right? And an insight and stuff. All right. So when did I move away from the MRM? Interesting to trying to think how to start.
I mean,
that.
your Twitter is still Ladies for Philip Davies, essentially.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess you can't.
PD.
Yeah, Ladies for PD.
Yeah.
And I don't know, was it like around, because you were at ICMI 2019, and then we had COVID, and we didn't really see each other for a year. I mean, we haven't seen each other since, really.
No, that's
So
true.
is there a something around that time? Because I know that COVID was like a paradigm shift for a lot of people.
Yeah. So I think I'm trying to think. So basically, around that time, or before that time, I was trying to do this project with the Women Against Feminism group on Facebook, and there was me and a couple of other people involved. We were trying to get a kind of project going off that was going to be about women who were not feminists, who were like non-feminist or maybe anti-feminist. And it was supposed to be a kind of support group / fellowship type organization that would just get women together so there could be a kind of collective voice and say, hey, we don't support all this liberal feminism stuff. But at the same time, we're not going against like feminists in a very hardcore way. Although at the time I was pretty anti-feminist. Yeah, at the time.
Yeah.
But I thought that this non-feminist position was far more of a kind of like a positive way of representing your value system than having an identity that's based on being anti something.
Sure.
Yeah.
We've talked about that too, actually, but but go on.
Yeah. So now around that time, I started to see some cracks in the MRM, to be honest, because it's an online / and offline movement where people are trying to change the culture, and also there's people that are trying to change things legally. So there's two things going on, right? There seemed to be some deep suspicion with the women who were getting involved, right?
Yeah.
And at first I was thinking, well, this is just from a few kind of mentally ill, probably, or not, maybe not. I'm not going to speculate necessarily, but people who got basically paranoid about this gynocentric worldview. They've internalized it quite deeply, and therefore any woman that wants to get involved in the men's rights movement is looked at as she is here to take away the attention from men. She is here to manipulate us. She is narcissistic.
There's always been well, I don't know how big it is, but there's always been a part of the movement, because I was on the Facebook page for the Honey Badger group. It was like run by people who watched us and stuff, and there's always been like people, especially men, in there that are extremely suspicious of women getting involved and engaging in entryism to change things. But yeah, so I'm just saying I've observed that as well for a long time. And sometimes you just gotta like, this is gonna come, for me anyway, the way I see it is it just kind of like comes with the territory. Like, yes, there's gonna be guys like that. They're probably hurt, they're probably wounded in some way. And this is like how it comes out. But what were you gonna say? Go on.
Okay, so at the time, that's what I would have said, right? I would have said that this is, it attracts certain types of people, and some of them are going to go overboard, especially if they are insecure or fragile on their mental health, or they're just really angry, they got red pill rage, whatever. Yeah. So I thought that at the time. But actually, I realized that there were people that were quite deeply involved who were facilitating this type of behavior, right? People that work at AVFM. Okay. So we're not talking about like random trolls and men on the internet who found AVFM and then go off and do their own, crap posting. Can I swear?
We always do. I mean, I don't know. It's up to you.
I try not to swear these days, but shit posting and trolling and when can they argue with the next feminist? They want to go around arguing with all the women, and we were all doing that, right? But there were definitely guys who were dedicating their lives to basically trying to call out this. And anyway. So I'm not going to like dwell on petty drama that happened about that time. What I'm trying to explain is that there were some people that worked at AVFM who were facilitating this drama, who it seemed like they were like almost encouraging people to come and try and attack us in this way. So it wasn't just, there's some deranged guys online who've taken this too far. it was people, one guy in particular who works for ABFM, who is a miserable CUNT, put it mildly. No, that's not even mildly. That's pretty on the nose. And everyone knows he's like that as well. And I, at the time, there was this feeling with the other lady that was running the group with me that if we didn't toe the line with the guys at AVFM, we were going to get more of this behavior.
Yeah.
Okay. And I went and tried to sort it out. I went and tried to speak to him, and I said, hey, why have you had a go at this, the admin of Women Against Feminism? What has she done to you? Because she was having this long, drawn out discussion with him about gynocentrism or something. But then he basically said, you don't get it, you don't care. And then shut the door in her face. Yeah. So I went and tried to sort it out. And then she basically spent the whole time saying to me, I feel like if we don't toe the line with these guys, we're going to get more of these types of attacks. And it doesn't just seem that it's some randos who are in Facebook groups. It seems more targeted than that. And I was just thinking the same, but I didn't really have the evidence exactly. It was more of a hunch, or a kind of like a guy who's got the guy who's working out a conspiracy, and he's got the notice board, and he's putting up, who this person's with that.
Yeah.
It was more like that. And I've always been very direct and open when I think these things. So I've always I said it at the time. I was like, this is not good. If the central one of the most influential websites and group of people involved in it is helping to facilitate this type of behavior online, then it really does seem like there's a bit more going on here than just, every now and then we get a deranged man who is genuinely misogynist.
So out of curiosity, you said that you guys were being attacked. How what could you describe that? Could you go into that a little bit more?
Well, there was one guy who I know in particular who was going around saying Natty is gynocentric, and Natty is the golden uterus. She that's all she she's not here to help men, blah 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 blah, right? That type of argument was being
levied at you.
Yes, very consistently in a way that was just kind of what are you guys going on about? It wasn't very rational. So sorry, the cat.
Yeah, no, it's okay.
It's okay. See a cat, you go away, buddy.
Well, the cat might have something to add to the conversation, so maybe.
Anyway, listen, I what I'm trying to say is that we cannot just that happened, okay, and then that started to lead me away from being associated with the MRM, to be honest. And also I started to look into religion, and I started to look into how we view the political spectrum and how we view reality itself in the West. And that started to lead me into Orthodoxy. I was already kind of in this viewpoint where I was saying, okay, all this kind of being right wing and being left wing, this doesn't make sense to me. Yeah. Having those positions and having that identity. So I was starting to question a lot of that anyway, around the same time that that stuff that was the precursor to it, because it just made me start to be okay, listen, this movement, if it is actually serious, why has it got people why is it letting people who who are supposedly trying to do a good thing here, you know, be it by being controversial, why are they carrying on like this? Or at least why are they letting other people who work for them or associated with them carry on in that way? Because it's not.
Okay, so this person that worked in it that is probably still with AVFM, I assume, that accused you of
2 people.
So do you know if anyone that it has some authority within that group was notified about that? And like, did they act on it? Did they approach the person, talk to them? And also, do you know what the evidence, like when they accused you of being gynocentric or whatever the narrative is, do you know what their evidence for that is? Like, did they tell you? Did you ask them? They didn't. Did you ask for it?
Yeah, I did ask for it.
And they didn't say anything? They just said you just
I don't remember anything concrete coming up apart from just insults and slurs and, you know, ad hominem. So like Paul Elam got involved in the sense that this same person, another person who was involved in this, started attacking Erin Pizzi, and then Erin Pizzi spoke out about it on her Facebook, and then Elam actually got involved in that.
Okay, so this person came after Erin Pizzi for the same reasons? Like, was he saying that she's also gynocentric? Or was this something else?
The person that I'm talking about who said this about Erin doesn't work for AVFM. They're just the random guy who was associated with us at the time. But what I'm trying to explain to you is that he was facilitated by other people.
Right. Yeah, no, I know. But I just want to get a sense of like what the severity of what they're saying is, and like what, you know, like they're trying to get a grasp, I guess, on what the pattern is, what the reasoning is, what it is that's being alleged, you know, what did so-and-so say or do. Because I don't know about any of this stuff. I like, we don't really talk to AVFM much. Paul lives around here, and I sometimes I see him and his partner, and you know, but that's it. I mean, it's been months, so I'm a little out of the loop, is what I'm saying.
Yeah. So. Well, this stuff that I'm telling you now was what started to get me to question my association in the first place.
Sure. So okay, then maybe we can. Yeah, maybe we can get away from like the little things and sort of get into like, I assume that the real reason why you moved away is something more, I don't know, profound. Like there was something fundamental about the men's movement that does not vibe with you anymore. And it has something to do with your shift to Orthodoxy. Is that fair to say?
It has something to do with it, but I was already
on your way.
On my way before then, for sure. Because I realized that there was some genuine misogyny going on that I believe it does have literally has almost nothing to do with the issues that people claim the MRM really deeply cares about, or at least the crew of people that we're talking about, you know. So AVFM and who they influence. Some of you guys, unfortunately, I'm not talking about you personally, Brian, but you know, just some of the positions in your cohort, and then there are other people around as well who there seemed to be what I wanted to what I brought up a few minutes ago was that there seemed to be this idea that if we didn't go under the stewardship of somebody associated with this crew of people, then we were going to be attacked. And that's exactly what's happened now.
If you didn't go under the stewardship of certain people, you're going to be attacked. So like like there was like purity testing going on?
Yeah, but I think it's a bit more than that, to be honest. So I don't know how much you talk to Peter Wright.
I mean, occasionally, like, so I was planning on I was doing a little bit of research also into Christianity because I was specifically looking into circumcision as one of the primary issues that I still believe we should address. And I brought it up on Twitter a while back where I said, I read in the Bible that circumcision is not Christian, and because it isn't a physical act, it's like a circumcision of the heart, and I was making this point because I think that people unfairly associated male genital mutilation with Christianity, and I don't think it's associated with Christianity. I think it's associated with Judaism, and I think it's associated with Islam, but not Christianity, right? And I got the verses out and I explained it and I had all the resources, and Peter Wright reached out to me and sent me some messages and asked me about some questions about Orthodoxy, and I answered them, and then he said that he's always had a soft spot for that, but that was about the extent of my conversation. I don't really talk to him much on Twitter. So, but I'm sure what you're going to say is completely unrelated because he runs gynocentrism.com. And I know that he has often come into conflict. I think he got into a fight with Paula Wright some years back about that, because Paula Wright she would say that, that gynocentrism is overused. And we have said that on this show that gynocentrism isn't over. Now. Huh?
Chat.
Who's Clara?
Clara Gray is in your chat, and she's been sending my husband messages harassing him and accusing me of being a abuser. She's in your chat now.
Yeah, I'm looking at the chat. I don't know who that is. I've never seen that person in our chat before.
Clara Gray. You can see her name right there.
I see it. Yeah.
Yeah. So Clara has sent my husband text messages saying that everybody knows that I'm a narcissistic abuser, and that if he wants to get out, blink twice because he needs help.
Is Clara Gray an MRA?
Supposedly. She's an MRA supposedly, who supposedly has been visited by some type of agency or is a dissident to the government, apparently. And apparently I grassed her up to them.
Oh. Well, the Starmer government isn't exactly looking good these days, but I don't know who that is. And I don't think that
other MRAs do know who she is, though, Brian.
Yeah, no, I'm sure. And again, I think maybe I don't. Okay, as part of Honey Badger Radio, I don't think we work like directly with other MRA groups, so we don't know what kind of stuff goes on. Lately we've been kind of operating like on the outside of that orbit, so like I see a lot of new names in our chat. I don't know who they are. I assume they followed you probably, and either to troll you or to support you. I don't know, but I think that because I'm kind of outside the loop and I'm not associated with any of these people, because we do our own content, and I guess.
All right. Well, let me. Sorry to interrupt me. Let me just cut to the chase. All right.
Yeah.
I want to talk about what my point of view about the MRM and feminism and like the Western culture is.
Let's do it.
We'll do that. But first of all, just to clarify why I brought that up, because she's in the chat now, right? Okay. So I made a video maybe a year ago. Like I said goodbye to the MRM. Like I wrote something about it, and then I deleted my old Facebook account, and I'd moved house, and I just like disappeared, for a bit. And then I made a video regarding some stuff about a year ago, and I made a few other videos, and I just wanted to get this out there because I thought, you know what, holy crap. I do think some of the feminists have a point, and I've learned quite a lot in the last 2 to 3 years that has brought me to a position where I can see what they're right about. Okay, that doesn't mean I agree with the ideology as overall, but I can see what they're right about. So I made this video, and then around that time, I came back on Twitter at some point. And Peter Wright, he's always been quite friendly to me, and I know that he mentors Elizabeth. You know Elizabeth Hobson?
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah. Love
So
Elizabeth.
he mentors her, and or at least he used to. And then I know that he does seem to have a bit of a habit of talking to people behind the scenes, because he's not a public facing guy. He doesn't make content like that. There might be some stuff online with him, but he's not that guy, right? He's a writer. You know, he does seem to do that. So I've been friendly with him for years. And then when I started saying, hey, I don't agree with your gynocentrism thesis overall. There's some stuff in there that I agree with, but overall I don't agree with it. Okay. He seems to be fine with that, and we had a chat about it. And he said to me, I don't think you are gynocentric overall. I think you're, basically saying, I think you're all right. And I'm just like, okay, thanks, Peter. Like, whatever. But then he said something about Lauren Southern being a narcissist. And I have to say, I've never understood why Paul Elam and a few other people went after Lauren years ago in the way that they did. I thought that it was just didn't make any sense to me. And so when he said something about her on Twitter, because she's like started talking a bit more in the last year or so, again, making more videos and whatever, right? Because she disappeared for a while. I said to him, I really don't understand why you're calling her a narcissist. Please, explain it to me like I'm a 5-year-old. And I was genuinely wanting to hear what he had to say. And then he was like, well, if you can't see it by now, then you don't get it, then I don't know what to say to you. And I'm like, I genuinely don't get it. I was like, you can say that maybe she's a bit of an attention seeker because she was making videos and, she knew she was attractive. Okay, whatever, right? But when it goes beyond saying that someone is aware of them being gaining attention, like most people who make content on YouTube and Instagram and social media, but to then move to the next stage and start calling someone a narcissist are you saying they have some narcissistic traits? Or they have a narcissistic personality disorder, right? So that's what I was trying to point out. And then I got blocked by him, right?
By Peter Wright?
Yes, by Peter Wright.
Okay.
And I'd already been blocked by Paul Elam because he blocked me on Facebook because I had said something in a comment and didn't like it. Yeah. And then another time as well on Twitter, I said something, and then he blocked me, right? Yeah. So I was like, okay, well, they don't like me anymore. Okay, don't agree with me. But after he blocked me, then Peter Wright wrote this post saying, if you see an account with former MRA saying stuff, that they're now out of the red pill or manosphere or MRM, and they're saying stuff, and they they know that they are probably a trained agent, trained to hate. And my friend saw this and sent it to me and was like, "That's about you," because I know that you had he blocked you because I told her about that. She's like, that's about you. That's 100% sounds like it's about you. And I was like, why are you writing a post saying that I'm a trained agent? Seriously, what is this? What's this about? So I spoke to Elizabeth and I said, hey, Elizabeth, can you ask Peter Wright, because he's blocked me, to tell you why he's written this about me. And she did, and he responded saying, I wasn't even thinking about Natty when I wrote that, but thinking about it, she's exactly the kind of person who I'm thinking of when I wrote it. Actually thinking about it, she probably is that person.
Yeah.
And so Elizabeth was like, oh, it's not about you. And I was like, Elizabeth, I'm sorry if you can't tell what manipulation is in a message. I don't know what to tell you. You know,
So
my friend.
Yeah,
Anyway,
what would be the purpose of that manipulation? Why would what would be the?
You tell me, Brian.
Oh, I don't know.
You tell me.
Okay.
Because I then, after around that same time, there was also another lady called Charlotte, her name is, or Lottie. Her name is Men's Rights Bunny. And me and her know each other. We know each other.
Yeah.
We know each other. I used to talk to her sometimes. She was trying to get me to go on a podcast with her and stuff ages ago. But I know her, and we chatted. We were friendly. I wouldn't say we were like good friends, but we were friendly enough. And she blocked me out of nowhere, clearly because, you know, I'm saying some stuff that's different to what I used to say on Twitter, maybe, right? And she blocked me out of nowhere, didn't tell me. And I when I noticed that, I was like, oh, that's a shame, you know, because I knew that making this video and saying stuff was going to get like some people go against me. And I thought, okay, I'm fine with that, right? That's up to them. But then she writes a post saying that Natty is a fake Christian, a fake trad. She's probably some trained agent, and I'm worried about her children and her boys, and implying that I'm some type of child abuser. And then around the same time, I started getting anonymous bots. It seemed like they were bots, but anonymous accounts that had been made recently who started saying things like, Natty is being taken to court for child abuse. We all know that she has a reputation of destroying men's reputation, implying I've made false accusations against men, like saying I'm a narcissist, whatever. And one of them is 100% Clara Gray, who's in the chat. And I know her personally as well, because she was dating someone who was a friend of mine. She actually came to my house with this friend. Everything was fine. And then one day when this whole thing was happening on Twitter, I was talking to her and I said to her, do you know who these anonymous accounts are? Because like, I just had this feeling that she might know. And she says, I have no idea, but whoever they are, I owe them a pint. You're a stupid cow, and then blocked me. And then there was another account on Twitter, which basically was Clara, because Clara has a very cryptic, weird way of talking all the time. And then it's also told me that I'd grassed her up to the authorities about something. And I had no idea. To be honest, I was thinking is this woman schizophrenic or I don't know. I really have no idea what on earth is going on with this woman. And then when she came to my house, my husband had picked her up from the train station, and that's why she has his number. Yeah, and I had sent her a message and tried to call her after she blocked me, because I was like quite hurt that I'd been friendly with this woman because she was a friend of my friend. She was a girlfriend of my friend. Yeah. And I'd been making an effort to be friendly with her. She just did this weird behavior on me. And then she sends my husband 2 text messages saying that everybody knows that I'm an abuser, and that if he needs help getting out of the marriage, then, something like, we could read the text message out if you want to. But anyway, listen, all of this is just, you're thinking, oh, what drama? Who cares? Yeah.
No, I mean, like, okay, look, what
I'm trying to explain to you is that this all happened after Peter Wright put out a tweet telling everyone that I was a trained agent. Peter Wright, who is supposedly...
What do they mean by trained? What do you think they mean by trained agent? Like you work for the government? Like you're Mossad? Well, I don't know. I'm wondering, because like when I hear that, it could be flowery language that just means that you're, like working for the other side, but it could also be something more serious. I'm just wondering, what do they believe? Because I hear the language and it does sound. So here's what I think. Okay, it does sound like drama, and I don't mean to be dismissive, because I understand that reputation destruction can be pretty damaging to people, and the internet is like the latest tool for doing that. And I have also, because I remember you got into a fight with Erin Pitsy and she cut you off. I don't know if you guys ever repaired that or whatever, built. No. Yeah. So, I mean, I get it, because I've also lost people that I was very close to, I'd known for a long time, over, I don't know, political disagreements, essentially. And so I understand that, but it does. Does your husband want to come in? Oh, you were moving the camera.
Look at the chat. Look at the chat.
I'm trying not to, because I think it's a distraction.
No, I'm talking to my husband. I'm asking him.
Asking him to look at it. Look, because it's another conversation going on there. So it does sound like it's drama, and I think that there's a number of people who are, and I have my own troll. I have one person that comments on every post I make on Twitter and accuses me of all kinds of stuff, and I don't know who they are, and it might even be either a Chinese account or a bot or something. But I just sort of move on. I get this all the time. So, and again, I'm not saying, I'm not trying to say be dismissive, but I guess because there are going to be terminally online unwell people in every circle of the internet, in every possible space, and I've seen a lot of it. So I guess that doesn't concern me very much. I'm sorry it's happening to you, and I don't think it should be. I think that we should just let you have your beliefs. That's what I think, right? Because I have beliefs, and I'm in HBR, and I'm probably the only person who is as say spiritual as I am compared to others, right? But I don't make that an issue, so I just sort of move on. I hope that I can be the best version of myself as possible, and other people are inspired by that, and that's fine. And yeah, sometimes I get into all kinds of arguments with Allison and Mike and stuff about all kinds of things, but we are I don't know, I guess I'm less, I understand the issue, but I'm more curious about is your viewpoints, because we're getting to how you've changed on things. Is it because of the treatment you got, or is it more of a conclusion you came to outside of that? Because I don't know. That's what I want to know.
I think it's both.
Mm-hmm.
So I believe that Peter Wright knows that when he puts out certain messages like that certain people are going to respond. The two people that I talk about, who I was talking about, who work for AVFM, I responded and said something, and they both repeated some of the same accusations against me, with the degree of nastiness that's just completely unnecessary in any at all. Okay.
Yeah.
And so to me, this is not just there are some mentally ill people attracted to this and there are trolls on the internet. Okay. There is something rotten at the core of the gynocentrism worldview in the first place. And it really does feed into people that may have a what's the right term, when they are already kind of that way inclined anyway, and there's also a level of indoctrination regarding it, right? So if you're taking on a viewpoint that society, like patriarchy theory, for example, okay, this idea that patriarchy has oppressed women for a very long time, that actually the truth is the opposite. The truth is inverse. Yeah. Okay, if you take on this idea,
How do you define the inverse? So what you're saying is that our argument is that patriarchy didn't exist in the way that feminists define it. This is a very important distinction to make. But instead that it was the reverse. So does that mean that women ruled over men? Is that the position you think that these guys, or are making? Do you think
many of your followers and AVFM and the MRM definitely come to that conclusion? Okay, well, and I'm sorry, I can't just go, oh, that's their mistake. I think that is on purpose, because it leads people to, especially people who are psychologically split, which most of us are, but some more than others. They haven't integrated certain parts of themselves properly, or they haven't reached a level of peace or ability to stand outside of things and be more objective. Okay. It is basically like brainwashing, in my opinion, in the sense that instead of saying, reality is quite complex, and we probably have patriarchy and gynocentrism parallel to each other, operating at the same time. Instead of something more balanced like that, it's basically coming to this conclusion that all of the evil in the world is like women projecting onto men and men acting it out. And unfortunately, like even people like Hannah on your team, that's how they sound on Twitter. Like, I'm engaging with her and she's just like, gynocentrism is female narcissism, and female narcissism is what our society is ruling under. And I'm just like, what? Really?
I don't want to speak for Hannah, but she has said that she doesn't believe gynocentrism is natural, and that it's like being sort of amplified by, feminism and like our culture. But I think that when you said that patriarchy and gynocentrism operate in parallel, like we've literally said that. Dr. Randerham has a great video where he describes I think it's gynocentrism as like a smaller circle where the hearth, or like the heart of a civilization where the women and children are, and patriarchy is the outer rim of that protects that central part. And he made that years ago, and that's the model that I operate under. Like I don't like to use the word gynocentrism because I do think it's overused, and I don't know that it quite fits everything. But instead, I think of it like it's like this idea that we have historically, men have oppressed women throughout history. I don't think it's true, but I also don't think the opposite is true. I think that men and women have, for most of history, cooperated, and men took on the positions of power as a means to serve their society, which includes women and children. And so like men being in power is not because it is, it's not like intended to exploit. It's sort of like you're going to get tyrants, and they could be male or female, and you're going to get wise kings and queens as well. And so we want wise kings and queens, wise leadership. And if it happens to be male, then that's just what it is. So I don't know, like I don't subscribe to any of that stuff. And I know that there are people who do, trust me. Sometimes they're in our chat, sometimes but I think that they're just wrong about that. And I just let them have it, because I think, and I'm not trying to be dismissive. So maybe you think that there's something deeper going on, even beyond, like a bunch of guys going through red pill rage or whatever.
What I'm trying to say is when you have one of the most influential MRM academics or thinkers called Peter Wright saying things like that, then surely there's an indication that there's something else going on. It's not just, oh, he doesn't like Natty. Like there's something else about this, because Because
I
I basically worked out that if, especially as a woman, if you don't subscribe to basically like certain talking points, then it does seem like he gets involved with encouraging people to go after you. Okay, this is what that lady was that I mentioned from the Women Against Feminism group was.
Her name wasn't Jana, was it?
Huh?
Jana? Is that because I just did a fireside chat with Jana? I just did I just did a thing with her, and she's really nice. But go ahead.
Yeah, she's trying to get the channel going again. So I was talking to her recently, which is quite interesting. But so basically, I don't think that the gynocentrism stuff, to be honest, is designed to hold any real weight. I actually think that the main point of it, really, this is the conclusion I'm coming down to now, and I'm willing to be proven wrong at some point if I'm wrong. But it does seem to lead people down a path where women can't be trusted at all. Like, that would be their conclusion. So women have embraced this horrible, oppressive feminism in response to some propaganda campaign by those on the left who promoted feminism, right? This is like a general argument that's made. We know the truth. We've got gynocentrism, and we've written about that. And women are they don't want to ever be accountable for anything, especially not as adults. They want to still be in the position to be like almost childlike. And look, we have been telling you about this all this time, okay? And look, women have just failed. They're not, look, they voted left, the Democrats are in, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. This is we're never going to succeed with anything. Trying to reason with them and trying to tell everybody this is not going to get anywhere. What's the solution? Yeah. It does seem to like push people into a tunnel with a very specific destination. So to me, this destination is one where women, basically, when I made that video about a year ago, I was saying that one of the reasons why feminists go on about Handmaid's Tale is because there is actually a group of people in America who do actually want to take control of reproduction in a way that isn't just about protecting unborn children, unborn babies, from and stopping abortion. It's more insidious than that. It does seem to be more about getting access to wombs and going into the next stage of genetic engineering. And then the end goal would be the transhumanist dream of an artificial womb, because the amount of MRAs and those in the manosphere who are either enthusiastic or at least passive and have this viewpoint that this end goal is inevitable, that we just have to get there, it's going to happen, what's the point in complaining about it, why make any ethical arguments against it? And this is something I did discuss with Peter Wright, actually, and I at one point some time ago, and I was just like, you does seem to be that your ideas point towards that direction, because it is basically not giving anyone any hope. Yeah. Because everyone is saying, well, women are never going to be able to be accountable because they're always going to do this horrible feminism. Yeah. And so this makes me sound like some kind of like conspiratorial nut job to some people, but looking at the trends of what's going on. So just to circle back for a second, right? And then I'll explain what my viewpoint is properly, and I won't continue sounding like just some some woman who's whining about a bunch of people that don't like her. So right now in America, you guys have got your election, and you've got Donald Trump versus Kamala Harris, and you've got Project 2025, which like all the liberals have been complaining about for ages. Yeah. So you're aware of what that is, right?
Yeah, it's the new boogeyman. I went through the whole thing on a stream. Okay, so just to I'm not trying to be dismissive, but look, there are think tanks, hundreds of think tanks, and they all put together various projects, and they're on the Democrat Party, the Republican Party, they're all over the place. Project 2025 is put together by the Heritage Foundation. I went through everything on there. Feminists are turning it into a big scary monster. Trump has already said, I don't like it, I'm not using it. He thinks that some of the stuff on there is like beyond the pale. I think so too. I don't think it's gonna happen. He's got his own agenda, Agenda 47. And now they're basically making that into the big boogeyman. And it's got things like, I'm going to reduce funding to the Department of Education, if not eliminate it outright. I don't think that's possible, but he might try to do that. Or, you know, putting abortion to the states and things like this. So I don't think it's that scary, but what do you think? Because it sounds like you're not thrilled with that.
I mean, a few years ago, I probably would have been like you and have been like, oh, it's not that bad, whatever. But unfortunately, I got to know the Protestant Christian right quite well in the UK, okay? And I've also got to know people online, but before I became Christian, I was aware of Christian fundamentalism, right? I was aware of it. But I wasn't, because I'm in the UK, I wasn't, and I didn't grow up Christian, I wasn't deeply aware of what their theological positions are and what type of culture they promote within their circles, right?
Yeah.
I've literally just had a kind of like intense year or two, especially this year, where I've really got to know what it is that they believe. So the conservative groups that have created Project 2025, spearheaded by the Heritage Foundation, right? They have a theological position that if generally speaking, because it is an amalgamation of different groups, but they all tend to have this in common, yeah? Especially the ones that are very fundamentalist.
Mm-hmm.
They have a position that if a woman wants to be saved, yeah, she wants to be saved by Jesus, she needs to become a wife and mother, and she is saved through her role as a helpmeet by being a wife and mother. Okay. Now, as far as Orthodoxy is concerned, that's not correct. Okay, that's not correct. There are some lines in scripture that they use to back that up, but that's not correct at all. And what they do is, in their circles, they have this viewpoint that if a woman does anything else than be a wife and a mother, then her salvation is at risk. And so what they do in their communities is the girls are brought up with this worldview that they need to get married and have children, that's their priority. And if they don't do that, then their salvation is at risk. Yeah, that's one of the fundamental things that is promoted in their circles. And the other thing is, because it's biblical patriarchy, yeah, Christian biblical patriarchy. Now, it's not just, you submit to your husband and your husband is trying to, needs to love you like Christ loves the church, which is what Ephesians 5 says, which is one of the main parts in scripture that talks about marriage. But what they do is they zone in on the wife's submission, and they kind of back away from what the conditions are for the husband. And so they sort of pay lip service to what the husband is supposed to be doing, but they really zone in on and hyper focus on what the women's conditions are, right? And some of the churches are like that in those groups under the Heritage Foundation. If you have a look at the over 100 different organizations that support Project 2025, they're all like varying degrees of this type of theological position. And pretty much they are all now agreeing with the rallying call to repeal the 19th Amendment.
Repeal the 19th?
Yes, repeal, sorry. A 19th Amendment to remove women's votes, right? And then they want household voting. And, you know, some years ago, I somewhat embraced this position temporarily. I was like, oh, I can see what the argument is about this. And, you know, I thought that it was interesting, because I remember when Janet Lansbury was talking about that on her blog years ago. And I had no idea at the time that this position came from fundamentalist Christians. It wasn't just her being a bit of a reactionary online. It actually comes from them, right?
Mm-hmm.
So after the civil rights movement, and then you have the Christian right, getting a little bit upset with all what's gone on with the civil rights movement, and so they started to become more politically active in a way that they hadn't been in the past. Then you have people like Rush Limbaugh and all that. I'm sure you know more about this than me, since you're American, right? But since the 70s and 80s, the kind of like fundamentalism started to just become more and more isolated, and certain books and certain influences became more reactionary to the culture. And they have been working on their Christian nationalism project ever since then. So what I'm trying to say is that just because liberals are complaining about it doesn't mean that it isn't a threat.
All right. Well, what is it? What do you think is the threat? Like, what is going to happen? And how many Americans do you think are going to support it? And would women, because here's the thing, women are the majority of the voter base, and they're also more likely to go out and vote. So the only way that women are going to lose the vote is if they vote for it. And I don't think they're going to do that. We often talk about, like on the show, I talk about how I think universal suffrage is a mistake, because I think that a lot of people do not vote in the interest of the society or the country, but they just vote for what they want, especially if they're not invested. So, for example, it could be a man or a woman, doesn't matter, but someone who doesn't have any children and they're dependent on the state, maybe they're getting welfare or whatever. When it comes time to vote, they're going to vote for the person who offers the gives. And then the people who do have kids and they have a family, they're thinking about the future of their children, so their vote is going to be different. So I have talked about, I don't think there should be universal suffrage, but I'm just one guy on the internet with an opinion. That's probably not going to change as far as I'm concerned. And I doubt it, because it would take people en masse voting against their interests, that is to say women, and there's probably a majority of men who would also be against it. Because one of the things that feminist patriarchy presumes is that if men have power over women, they would abuse them with it. And I think that most men love women. They would never do that, despite what their religious beliefs are. Even like an atheist man probably wouldn't abuse his woman. That's what I think. I mean, I'm just looking at reality as I see it.
So, I mean, I don't. One of the reasons I became an MRA was because I wanted to make sure that I was telling people that most men won't do that, right? Most men won't use their power. But I don't believe now that that is true.
So you think that men have the capacity to abuse their power against women in a not insignificant number? I wouldn't even say the majority. Or would you say the majority? I wouldn't
say the majority. I'm not going to say that. I would never say that. But I think it would be significant enough for there to be perhaps an epidemic.
An epidemic of what?
Of men abusing their power over women. So let's say that repeal the 19th did happen. Okay, this is just, this has never happened before. You've never had a society in the West where women couldn't vote and men could. Yeah.
No, I mean, yeah, I don't think that
existed.
would. No, I don't think so. I think that that for most of history, like women and most men did not vote. Only people who owned property, and it was like based on the property, right? It was like a household got a vote, or if men were willing to conscript themselves, like if they were conscripted into war, they could get a vote in return for that.
In the 1918 People's Act, that was when most men got the vote, and women over 30, and then eventually all women as well. That's some years later.
Yeah.
If that happened now in America, you would have a situation where all men could vote and women couldn't, right? We've never had that. That's actually progressive. It's a progressive idea to do something like this. It's not old-fashioned or traditional.
Sure.
It's actually progressive.
Sure.
And if you combine that with the rhetoric on the right, which is like feminism has contributed to or is responsible for the destruction of the West. Everybody hates it. Okay. And all these groups on the right are agreeing with this argument. It's not just on the fundamentalist Christians, it's libertarians, it's general Republicans, it's paleoconservatives, whoever describe themselves as right wing, they all agree with this narrative. Yeah. There's also seems to be this argument that modern liberal women are responsible for all these problems as well, not just feminism, although modern liberal women and feminism go together. So the scapegoating of women is now just normalized. That's going on. Yeah. This is something that 8 years ago, 7 years ago, 6 years ago, when I first started being involved in the MRM, I would never say that this was going to happen, you know. But there was somebody that wrote something around, I don't know, it was published in 2010. It's called the Misandry Bubble Essay, and it was published on a futurist blog. And the author's called Imran Khan or something. That's a transhumanist blog. Yeah, that's a blog about transhumanism. And in this essay, it said that the misandry bubble will burst in 2022. I don't know if you've ever read that essay, but all of the talking points that the manosphere and overlapping with the MRM are in that essay. All of these talking points about how modern liberal women are going to destroy everything, pretty much, you know, divorce rates, how women are, basically all of the talk, every single basic bitch talking point that's in the manosphere is in that essay. Right? Yeah. That was published in 2010 by a transhumanist guy, right? And I remember I read that years ago, and it said by 2022 the misandry bubble will burst, and then we will see an extreme shift into the other direction. And women basically will have their rights removed from them at some point. That's what it pretty much says.
Well, I would ask this. How did we get here? Because we've been doing this for 10 years, trying to get people to just do something about the laws, and maybe some of the overreach and all of because feminism has the power. It's not us. Like I still live hand to mouth, with my wife barely making enough money to get by. And all I want is for people to look at the divorce laws. What we want to encourage people to get together and get married. And in my personal opinion, ideally, it should be a religious marriage. I think that the state shouldn't be involved in marriage. I think that was a mistake from the beginning. But over time, our discussions and everything that we've been, trying to get people to see and talk about has been ignored.
I know that you're quite reasonable, Brian, but I don't actually understand what the rest of you guys are trying to get people to understand and talk about, because to me, feminism doesn't have all the power. It doesn't have all the power. So, like, the last 10 years...
Well, okay, then who has the power in this? Why is it we're at the point now where people like Andrew Tate and the Whatever podcast and Fresh and Fit are the biggest voices for men when they're obviously a lot more savage than we were? And meanwhile, Warren Farrell, the gentlest man ever, he's still trying to peddle his books and nobody's listening. So, like, literally, the issue is from the moment a boy is born, we are not listening to what they need. And birth rates are collapsing, and no one's talking about forcing anything. But I think that the average man wants to love the average woman and just get together, get married, and start a family. And the thing is that there is obstacles at every step. I mean, not just things with the economy and stuff like that, but like people not seeing the good in other people and not getting together because of those reasons. And I don't like that this has gone, like maybe too far the other way. But I'm like, well, if people today are like, oh, Andrew Tate, the worst thing ever. Oh, Fresh and Fit, the whatever. Like they're just dunking on women. It's like, yeah, but those people wouldn't exist if you listened to us 10 years ago. They wouldn't even exist. Like, and the thing is, as we ignore them, the next batch is going to be worse.
No, so this is where I disagree with you. I'm sorry, Brian. Respectfully.
It's okay.
Respectfully, those people have always existed.
Yeah, but they weren't.
Facts.
No, they've always existed. Yes, but they weren't like the prominent people in the space. Is what I'm saying. Like, yes, there were always people like that, but like they're not like with millions of followers on social media.
A political movement that is trying to take over America right now through the GOP that consists of people like that.
Okay, Natty,
They may pretend to be Christian, but that's why they view women.
So what should we do about that? Because again, even then, you can make
the Christian right has been there all along, right? And has had this viewpoint of women all along. And they're actually, a lot of women who turned to feminism grew up in that culture in America and tried to escape it. And a lot of them then became feminists because they were like, whoa, I don't want to be a part of a culture that is going, a movement that is getting closer and closer to gaining power. And then once it gains power, who knows what it's going to do? Because you know how we all go on about socialism and communism on the left, the long march. You've got the same thing going on the right, and they do actually genuinely want to subjugate women. Like, it's not even a meme. I know people in my real life who actually want this. In the UK, you guys are influenced in the UK, okay? They have been this way for 20 or more years. They're not just recently radicalized. It's just that now the environment is such that they can start talking more openly about what it is they want. And when I finally came around to realizing this, I was like, hang on a minute. There's been some feminists and liberals who've been saying this all along. Probably should have taken them more seriously. That doesn't mean that I care. I agree with everything that they are about, but I'm saying that. So going over some of the viewpoints that I have now about how we view reality in our culture, right? This is probably a good moment to actually do this and not just me bitching. But okay, so this is what I've been talking about on Twitter. We have this linear progressive spectrum. Generally, like, you've got left, you've got right, yeah? And in America especially, that's generally viewed as individual versus collectivist, yeah? Generally. Even though we know that there's going to be some collectivism on both sides, and on the left, they're also going to have a sense of the individual, but it's generally represented in a polarized way. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I think this is a problem in the sense that you shouldn't be, in my opinion, looking at how we're going to run things, politically, how do we run society as, oh, collectivism's evil and bad, oh, individualism's evil and bad, right? Because we should be viewing that both of them are quite important and have their own characteristics and essence about them that is important to us and our conception of ourselves and reality in society. Yeah. And then also, time is not linear as far as I'm concerned. Time is more circular. Yeah. So the way I've tried to conceive of this is by saying that you put, as a Christian, Orthodox Christian, you put Christ or God in the middle. Yeah. Then you have the individual coming out as a circle outside that. Then you have the communal, which is what I think is missing from the political spectrum as way we conceive it, right? Because in the Hegelian dialect, you're supposed to reach the center, yeah, and that's supposed to like somehow balance the other two out. But that's clearly not happening anymore because everyone is very polarized, yeah, especially now. And I think it's because the sense of the communal has been completely lost. And I think there's a reason for that, personally. So if we had the communal and then the collective on the outside, like a concentric circle, saying that all three are co-equal, meaning that one is not more important than the other. We shouldn't be saying we have to get rid of collectivism and we have to get rid of the individual. It's like, no, none of those are more superior than the other. And we should recognize that there's an order, there's a hierarchy, and that we just need to try and balance the three and say that like they all are important to how we should run things, be more integrated. Yeah. I mean, clearly I'm sounding like an idealist here, but I'm just saying that the West is built on a perspective that, we need to be like overtly rationalist, and we've got scientism, and that all plays into linear thinking. And then that also plays into people's tendency to be fundamentalists, because it's not just the Christian right that are fundamentalists. Fundamentalism happens in all of us quite often in different ways. Where we go to black and white thinking, and we have to pick a side. Yeah. But reality is more complex than that. We all know that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But the way Orthodoxy influenced me in thinking about this was when I was thinking and looking at how the Trinity was originally conceived. And I don't know if you've looked into that, because I know you've been looking into Orthodoxy. Yeah. Well,
I've been going to an Orthodox church for almost 2 years now. So.
Yeah. Okay. So I don't know if you've
not that part, but I mean, like Lindsay and I are taking our time. Well, she's going to classes and stuff, but.
All right.
But go ahead.
Okay. I mean, I used a video about this, but I don't have one right now. That would be, I'm sure people in the chat will start going, where's she bringing a whiteboard? Okay, so in the Trinity, right, in the early church, after the Nicene Council, when they all agreed about the Trinity, right? In the original Trinity, I'm gonna do I'll do my look, Illuminati sign, joking.
Oh.
It's a triangle, yeah? Top of the triangle, you have the Father, then you have the Son and the Holy. Okay, and in the Orthodox Trinity, the Son is begotten of the Father, and the Holy Spirit, it proceeds from the Father. Okay, and then there's this argument that happens because a bunch of guys in Europe are like, we quite like the Roman Empire. Why can't we use the church to recreate the Roman Empire again? Because the Roman Empire is kind of fallen apart by this point. Yeah. And I suppose a part of that is, I don't know whether or not these theological arguments about dogma and stuff would have happened anyway. But the sort of perspective is that this happened because they were motivated by power and greed rather than anything else. Yeah. The viewpoint is that the Roman Catholic Church became what it became because they wanted to try and recreate the Roman Empire, but a Christian version. And that was probably the motivator rather than actually being a true believer on some of these points. But then again, I don't know for sure. I'm not a historian, so don't take this as okay.
I don't know either, but go on. Yeah.
So, but what happens with the argument is the filioque clause, which is basically the argument is that the Holy Spirit proceeds from the Father and the Son rather than just the Father, which, as far as the Orthodox believe, it turns the Trinity upside down. So it goes from a triangle to an inverse triangle. Yeah. And you have the Father and the Son, and the Holy Spirit is at the bottom. Yeah. Which starts to turn into basically the Holy Spirit being more subordinate in the way the Trinity is conceived, when really the Trinity, the three persons of the Trinity should be viewed as kind of co-equal. They should be in the sense that even though the Father is
one in essence and undivided, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah. So now the Holy Spirit is called the life-giving Spirit. Yeah. And as much as the three persons in the Trinity are not male or female, if we are made in God's image, like it says in Genesis, then God is going to have both masculine and feminine attributes. Yeah. Okay.
I would assume it transcends the very concept of that anyways, but
sure.
Go on. Yeah.
But if you're going to say that we're made in his image, it's not just the man's image, it's also the woman's image. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
And so what seems to happen is then you have papal supremacy, which then puts the Roman Catholic Church through the leadership of one man rather than a decentralized church with various patriarchs and bishops, which would rule by committee, or at least come to consensus by committee. It puts the final decision through one man, and he is infallible. Yeah, whereas
the Pope,
in the Orthodox Church, the Pope.
Yeah,
which, and then the Orthodox Church, the clergy.
They have patriarchs instead. Yeah,
they're fallible, right?
Church fathers, right?
Yeah. Okay. So that is the patriarchy.
Is that the patriarchy that the feminists call? Because the thing is, we're using the same word, but I don't think it has the same meaning.
No. So this is what I think the feminists are talking about.
So are they talking about the Orthodox patriarchy or the Pope?
No, they're talking about so think about how the Roman Catholic Church, right, is conceived, and there's a church split in 1054, and the Orthodox develop in the Byzantine Empire, and they in relative isolation, even though eventually, I'm sure there's more to it than that, but they're quite isolated from each other, right? So
they get crushed by Muslims. I know that much, but go on.
Well, the Crusades also went to the Byzantine Empire and slaughtered a bunch of Orthodox as well. Anyway, so they are putting the leadership of the church through one man, right? And they have changed the way that they think about the Trinity. Now, they would probably say that that's not a big deal about the Trinity, but Orthodox think it's a big deal, yeah? And so what I think happens with this is it starts to create a very hierarchical dominance hierarchy again. Yeah, because the Roman Empire definitely was androcentric and technocratic in its nature, for sure. Yeah. and then Christianity changes everything. But then the Roman Catholic Church does what it does, and it seems to draw it back towards a kind of androcentric technocracy again, in a just slower. And we're basically living at the end point of it, I think, now. And so the other thing I was talking to my priest about was, once they've made the Holy Spirit kind of more subordinate, there is a kind of a bit of a void going on. Maybe they don't really realize what that void is. But as far as me and my priest were talking about it, he agreed with me when I said to him that perhaps the way that they viewed the Holy Spirit made them look for something else to replace, where the Holy Spirit should be in its proper place, yeah? And perhaps they looked towards Mary, the Theotokos, right? Virgin Mary, Mother of God. And quite a lot of Protestants, generally speaking, have this critique about the Roman Catholic Church as well, that they view Mary in an almost idolatrous way, like she is.
They say that because my mother is a Protestant, and it's not just Mary, it's all the icons. She thinks that she's been told that that's all idol worship. So that, I know that they do that, but there is something about Mary that a lot of Protestants don't like, the importance of Mary that is put on her. It's not just about the other saints as well. Well, sure. And
so if you accept that the Roman Catholic Church, where they view the Trinity, is kind of left a bit of a void, and then Mary is sort of filling that void. Because I remember this other priest telling me about how some Islamic, I can't remember who it was now, but they went to the West, and they thought that the Trinity consisted of the Father, the Son, and Mary. They got it wrong, even though it's supposed to be the Holy Spirit. Yeah. So almost like they replaced the Holy Spirit with Mary. Yeah. What I'm going to say, how this connects with how our culture developed over hundreds of years, is that it kind of puts Mary on a bit of a pedestal that she shouldn't be on. Even though she is the top saint, she deserves her veneration. She's the Mother of God. Like we believe that was Orthodox. But there's something a little bit off about how the Roman Catholic Church is viewing her. Like it's a little bit off. There's something not quite right about it. Now, when Peter Wright talks about marrying cults and stuff in his writings about gynocentrism, I think that's what he's picking up on. Yeah. Because he's saying, women need to come off the pedestal, men need to stop being white knights. I think that is what he is picking up on, something that is actually like in our psyche, like, this kind of Jungian stuff where you talk about archetypes and stuff, and how that has influenced our culture in the way that we conceive of each other. So I'm making the argument that we have this like Roman Catholic Church that's deeply influenced our culture, yeah, and has basically been the blueprint of the patriarchy, yeah. Then you have Mary and what she represents for women as this impossible ideal, yeah, that no woman's going to be able to meet in a way that, like, clearly, if we're trying to be saints as Christians, like, who knows if any of us will make it. But the point is, if she is being presented as the top saint, yeah, but she's being presented in a slightly idolatrous manner, that is something that's quite out of reach for women. And then what's
the ideal for men?
Well, the ideal for men is still very similar to, I guess.
Isn't it Jesus?
Yeah.
That's kind of a high bar, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Okay. I'm just saying. Yeah, but go ahead.
Yeah, that's true. But what I'm saying is that Jesus isn't being represented as in an idolatrous way, though. Mary is.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Well, I know. I'm just saying, I think we're talking past each other a little bit, because you're trying to make a point about you're trying to make a point about the Roman Catholic Church and how they've like positioned things slightly differently. And I know this is a criticism, and I think we're getting on a bit of a, but I'm just saying that men do have a standard, and it is, I think that if we care about meeting that standard, because I know a lot of people who watch that are not religious, there's a part of us that has to understand that we're like, it's going to take our entire lifetime and we're probably still not going to be good enough, but that's okay. We're just going to make an effort.
So, I mean, absolutely. But if you also think about how in the original Trinity, the Son and the Holy Spirit are like at the bottom. Yeah. Son, Holy Spirit. They're in that place, in the right place, in the proper place. Okay. And then when it turns inverse and the Holy Spirit has to go through the Son and the Father, it's like positioning the Son as the same as the Father. So this does actually uphold men in an archetypal way as on the same level as the Father. And even though Jesus was God, he was also human. So he was not supposed to be on the same position as the Father. The Father's the monarch, right?
Yeah.
So the way I've been talking about it on Twitter is by saying that it created like this kind of more rigid hierarchy than was originally conceived. Okay. And then the Roman Catholic Church went through hundreds of years of very strict legalism, which they're still recovering from now. And now everybody moans about the woke Pope. But we can't forget that like the Roman Catholic Church did some really horrible things in its name, when it shouldn't have. Okay. It really went that way. And then the Protestants were like, oh my gosh, we need to leave these people, and then they split from the Roman Catholic Church, right? Now, what's interesting is that instead of going, Mary's pretty important, we should still venerate her. The Protestants are like, generally speaking, not Anglicans necessarily, but everyone else, especially the American Baptists and the Puritans and the Calvinists, and right, they really went hardcore against, and were like, no, we're only about Jesus, or we're only about the Father. And then some of them, the Pentecostals, for example, are like, oh, we're really, really about the Holy Spirit. So they become kind of split from the Trinity in a weird way, as far as I'm concerned. And so like no one's integrated anymore. If you believe that the Trinity is important to our spiritual development as humans, then the further we get from that, the more split and atomized we become, which seems to be what everybody complains about now, about atomization and how we're not supporting each other properly. We don't feel connected to each other in the same way anymore. And so what I'm saying is that this is what I think feminism was trying to get at least the sincere people, that ladies and men who like use the framework with like that feminism was coming from, and saying, hey, we have had this patriarchy and it has viewed women in the wrong way, not the correct way. We shouldn't, just because now it has been co-opted by like some secret communists or postmodernism, whatever way you want to put it, it doesn't mean that they didn't have a point, and they might not have been able to articulate it in a way that makes sense to you or even to other people. Especially because in America, you guys have a very highly individualistic culture. That's, capitalism you're very capitalistic and everything's about competition, do more all the time, right? So, you know, you kind of, you're not motivated necessarily to like slow down and take a step back and go, hang on a minute. Maybe these enlightened principles are not doing much for us. Yeah. And maybe women have actually suffered a little bit under some of this. Yeah. Now, I am not saying that men haven't suffered at all, right? I'm just saying that there is a bit more, there's something deeper going on than just political movements that are trying to gain power. And, you know, there are people that are trying to make sincere analysis and observations. Anyway,
Okay.
I'm off steam now.
No, it's all right. We went really like over time. It's okay.
I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. I know there was a lot that you wanted to get off your chest. I will say that as far as the individualism, collectivism thing, I think that where I live, because I think that there's when you look at America through the internet, it's like looking through a prism, and I think that you're going to see a certain experience that's refracted, and I think it's a major distortion. So when I used to live in Chicago, in the city, it was extremely chaotic, and I think that there was as weird as it is, there was a extreme individualism and extreme collectivism clashing in the cities. But here in Virginia, the part of Virginia I'm in, it's extremely libertarian, but there is a strong sense of community. So community is like it's like the difference. It's like just to like, because I know that I don't want to exhaust people that don't want to hear about the biblical stuff, but one of the things that I thought was most appealing about Jesus Christ that makes him different from the other, that separates Christianity from everything else, is this idea that he came to unify. So it's about unity, and I'm all for that. And that's like, this is what put him at odds with the Jews. It's true, because they thought he was chosen. He was like that he was going to come and liberate them from Rome, and he was like, no, I didn't come to do that. I came to unify. I came to bring the Gentiles in and make them a part of this communion. And so I thought that was really appealing to me, and I think that people here, they live that. And there's all kinds, Lutherans, Baptists, etc. I go to the Orthodox one. It's really small, but the point is, I think that there is a very strong sense of community where I live. So I have a hard time seeing, I'm not saying that it doesn't exist. Obviously, when the Protestants came here, they split off and they formed a bunch of little groups, and a lot of them became like cults, like the Mormons, and the Amish is even considered a cult by some. But the point is, I think that they're all trying to figure this out. Here's the challenge. I think that what you're saying, the solution is that everybody become Orthodox. I think that's what you're offering.
Look, I'm not going to say that, because
okay,
I'll get I mean, clearly I believe that, but
yeah,
I am not trying to evangelize in this conversation.
Right.
I am simply saying that Orthodoxy has influenced my thinking on this, and I can't avoid talking about it. One of the ways that it's influenced me is that like I keep talking about this as order, hierarchy, and fluidity, right? Okay. And there does seem to be this weird fundamentalism, black and white split that happens and is promoted online and on our politics, that men and women have only ever done everything to protect women and children, and there's been no other benefit for them at all, and they have nothing else that they've gained from it. We know that's not true. Stop repeating that. I'm sorry, it's an MRA talking point, but that's not strictly true. Yes, they may have protected women and children, but we all know that men are quite individualistic, right? And especially now, they don't have a fellowship in the way that they may have in the past, in the distant past, perhaps, right? They care about their women. They care about their family. They don't care about men, women, and children in general. Most men are just like, they're passive, and a lot of them are cowards. I'm sorry. Like,
again, I gotta say,
hitting on men. I'm saying
no, it's fine. I don't disagree. I think there's a lot of cowardice. I think there's a lot of weakness out there, but I gotta ask again. I gotta pose the rhetorical question: how did we get here? Why is it men don't have a model to like, you know, a model of masculinity that they can act in accordance with? What has happened to the family? What's happened?
It's not because of feminism alone at all. So, like, for me, this is why we're talking about transhumanism, is our culture accepted the presuppositions towards transhumanism a long time ago. We are now just like at the point where certain end goals of it are being reached or will be very soon. Yeah. So to me, it's more like we went through the Industrial Revolution and men were given this carrot that's like, you get to go out there and work for corporations and make money in capitalism, and you have to leave your family behind, and the family is no longer the center of your universe anymore. You're outside of that. Men were given a temptation, a big temptation, which actually the end goal of it is going to undermine the family unit and the community as a whole. And because the end goal of it is for men to become like God, right? Okay. And I think we all have to kind of, we don't need to shit on men to admit that they are attracted to that. Just like the whole of the right wing, and when I talk to them, yeah, and I ask them questions about this, they're just like, well, so what? So what? So what? Like, I'm going to do this. I just got to make money, whatever. Like taking away morality from money making and profits and stuff, and just like libertarianism. This is all masculine coded. This isn't necessarily what women promoted and pushed. Yeah. Women did not sit there and go, you need to go out there and go and contribute to making everybody a cyborg.
So you don't think that women are asking men for material comforts and men are not going out there and working to get that for them? Like, you think that men are just deciding they're going to turn the world into a machine and women just have to deal with it? You don't think women are saying, I want the new phone, I want the new car, I want the new dress, I want the new clothes, I want the like it's not like men are doing like what if a man did not have to attract a woman, he would live in a cardboard box. And he would just like get whatever. He can probably feed himself.
He would live in a cardboard box, and if someone came to him and said, do you want to be a cyborg? Most of them would go, hell yeah.
Well, only because it sounds cool. But
what has that got to do with women? Nothing.
Well, no, I think that most men they just want children and a family. I think that this is just what most men want. That's the default settings.
They also want to be a cyborg.
Okay, why is that? Because they want to be like God?
Yes.
So what do women want? Is there nothing like that for them?
So I think women trying to be like God happens in a different way. And I'm not saying that there aren't going to be any women that want to be cyborgs, but just if you're going to...
Well, I mean, if they have the newest iPhone, they basically are a cyborg, right?
Sure, but when I say this, right, to become a cyborg for a woman, she's probably going to have to not be able to reproduce.
Yeah, well, but women are choosing not to now. They're aborting babies in insane rates. They're cutting their, what do you call it? They're getting the female version of a vasectomy so they can't reproduce. So they're already doing that. They're transitioning. I think that the problem we're dealing with, and I gotta end the show. I'm sorry, but it was a good conversation. I appreciate you coming on. I think the thing we got to deal with is that this is not a gendered problem. What we're talking about ultimately is a spiritual problem. It's not something that I'm prepared to take on because I'm still learning, but I agree that scapegoating women endlessly is not a solution. And in fact, we don't engage so much in just pure anti-feminist, content. We talk mostly about like the crisis of meaning for the crisis of men and women like finding each other attractive and getting together, because what we're experiencing now in the conversation about like all of the issues with dating and women are choosing the bear and men are blaming women for this other thing, and some people are not, like it's driving us apart when it shouldn't be, and we're just trying to figure out like, okay, how do we get people to see each other as human again and just come together?
I know that that's what you're about, Brian, but I'm not sure that everyone that you associate with is.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's okay. Like they don't represent me, I guess.
Sure.
We're just over here doing our thing. Well, I'm curious.
I'm just gonna say though that like okay, so you really look into the Christian right and how their theological positions on what women's role is and how they view women, okay? And then realize that like your country is based on that culture, even if liberalism took over at a certain point and you've got, you do have an undercurrent of that. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so, perhaps some of the stuff that feminists were saying was aimed at a real thing that was going on. It wasn't all just inflating the truth or revisionism at all. Right. And there's this very strange thing that happens when we talk about how, well, women are not grateful for everything men has done for them. It's like, why can't we be able to say that men have been attracted to competing in the dominance hierarchy, aka the patriarchy, right? And there's something that tempts them within that. They feel they need to compete in it, right? They're forced to, basically. But they do that not necessarily all because they have moral good hearts and it's just because they want to protect women and provide for them. Yeah. There's something else to it as well. And as the MRA should really like stop blaming women for men making the decision to compete in that completely. And I am not saying that women don't have any say in this or any part in this at all. I'm just explaining that the talking points that you guys lean on quite heavily is that men only did this. And it's just like, okay, but at the same time, when you ask them about certain things that they are attracted to, like, yeah, for example, being a cyborg, they are going to go, oh yeah, I want to do that. Right.
Mm-hmm.
This is, and so I don't actually think you guys are holding men accountable fully, to be honest. From that, because whenever I have this discussion with anyone, especially American men, they're just like, well, I won't do anything for women then. Yeah, screw that. And it's like, maybe there's a third option. Maybe you could not buy into that stuff. And you could still provide for your wife if you want to. You don't need to react in a fundamentalist reactionary way. Yeah. Like it's endemic in your culture, especially. I'm sorry. That's what I think about it. I don't think it helps us to.
Well, again, I just because. Yeah, we gotta end the show, but all I will say is this. I guess offer us a solution. And I'm going to ask the chat because I'm going to end it here. What do we do? Like, how do we fix it? Because I think that we just want to fix it. So what do we do? And are women part of the solution? I would like to know that as well. So, but anyway, I got to end the show, Natty, but thank you for coming on. Maybe we'll have you on again and we can talk some more about it. And thank you, Natty's husband in the background. I know I didn't see your face or hear from you, but I know you're there. He didn't say anything. Did you want to say something?
You want to say something? No, he doesn't want to.
Okay. All right. Well, anyway, let us know what you guys think about this in the comments. I'm going to go into the patron show now and hang out with the patrons. So if you guys like this video, please hit like, subscribe if you're not already subscribed, hit the bell for notifications, leave us a comment. Let us know what you guys think about what we discussed on the show today. And please, please, please share this video because sharing is caring. Thank you, Natty, for coming on and making the time.
All right, thank you very much, Brian.
Thank you. Yeah, no problem. And thank you guys so much for coming on today's episode of the Fireside Chat. And we'll talk to you all in the next video.
Men's rights activists are machines, dude. Okay? They are literal machines. They are talking point machines. They are impossible to fucking deal with, especially if you have like a couple dudes who have good memory on top of that too. Holy shit, you're fucked.